never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Right you are, Steve. Good evening, friends and family. How's everybody doing? Sally, I know you and Barry are stuck up in Sault Ste. Marie. We wish you safe travels as that, holy smokes, that low pressure went through and has churned a whole heck of a lot up. Down here, as you can see, I'm not in the regular confines of where I'm normally on a Monday. I'm in the Thorold area getting some testing done, some driving testing. Why they picked me, I have no idea. But anyway, we're going to teach people how not to drive. Anyway, I just wanted to draw your attention to this thing here. I remember those being popular like back in the 70s. But I'm thinking of laying here naked at some point tonight and doing a selfie on this Love's chair. Anyway, just interest. Down here in Thorold, last night, I'm telling you, the rain. This window faces west, and I'm glad I brought earplugs because there's no way I was going to sleep through that. It just pounded the window. Never seen rain fall like that in December of all times. My happy place, Brad, mine too. Luke, how you doing tonight? Nice to see you back. James Shembry's in the house. Happy birthday to your brother. James, Tricia, how you doing? Lloyd, nice to see you as well. Walter's with us, and Jeanette and Kevin. Tony's in the house. How you doing? Mike Morenz is also here. Adele, yeah, baby. Eve, nice to see you, my friend. Carrie Paquette, CFN, how's things? I think we're okay now. Every Monday we do this, and we are blessed to have our panel. I don't have a lot of announcements other than on December 17th. So it's not next week, but the week after. We'll be joined with Yvonne. It'll be another ladies' night segment. She wants all you ladies to show up so she can take some of your suggestions, some of your advice on how you want to see things in 2022. So it'll just be me and Yvonne during her segment. But all you ladies, please, I'm begging you to show up because she wants to know who you want to see as guests, what you want to see as some of the content. So she's all ears, and she's looking forward to hearing from you folks. Scotty Martin on the chair. Yeah. Jim Wilson, you've been busy, my friend. Saw you out on the Bay of Quinte. There's just been some unbelievable catches caught out on the Bay recently. We featured one of Steve's, the sheepshead today. He's got a walleye that we're going to be featuring on Walleye Wednesday. Jim, I know you hooked into that. What was it, a 14-pound walleye? That is a decent hog. What a fish. That's a how many people have caught over a 10-pound walleye? I'm sure there's probably a small handful of us that have caught fish that exceed the 10 pounds, that are well into double digits, but a 14-pound walleye. Woo-hoo, Nelly. Anyway, it is a fish that we're all chasing. It is a fish of a lifetime, but they're out there. And from what it looks like with the Bay Quinte, they are biting. However, as I said, based on the weather, I would not be venturing out anytime soon. Winds picked up. She's going to be angry seas, but what topsy-turvy weather. Holy crap. They're saying at some point this week that we might be breaking serious records that were established back in the 1800s. We'll talk about it with Jim when he comes on. But yeah, absolutely. Edit is going up for Walleye Wednesday. We've got a bunch of them ready. I know Walter and Steve have been working very hard. I've got a few as well. 14-pound, 9-ounce. Oh, Holy smokes. Unbelievable. Well, listen, as I said, don't have a lot of announcements other than it's great to see you guys. Great to have you here. The panel's going to get going right away. We're going to be discussing, as we have been for the last 3 Mondays, some of your ice fishing and hard water tactics. Tonight, we're going to focus more on what presentations you like to use. Lawrence is going to talk to us about the importance of using a bell. And as you know, he has that vision disability. And Lawrence is going to talk to us about some of the things, even if you do have good vision, some of the telltales that we can use as anglers to let us know that we've got fish in the area or we've got a fish on. Everybody likes to have a fish on. And of course, Jay, I'm sure he's going to dive into his tackle box of awesomeness and share a whole bunch of stuff with us as well. But yeah, before further ado, let us get to, I want to say this is almost like our warm-up video. We play it all the time, and it certainly gets all of us going. And before we hear from Jim, let's have a word from our sponsor. Jim, how you doing tonight, my friend?
Boom shakalaka.
Boom shakalaka.
Now the snow stopped. Well, actually, the snow stopped here, I think, about 2 a.m. And then it's rained since then. And I'll tell you, if this would have been snow, we'd have probably had a couple of feet of snow on the ground because we just had to go pick up a prescription for Tammy here, and we drove down to Gananoque, and there's little trout creeks in the fields here.
Yeah,
and they're literally 200-300 yards wide.
It's incredible what went through here.
Yeah, the Gananoque River is like chocolate milk.
Wow.
So, and I mean, that's just in a day. The water really hasn't got there. Like it takes the next day. So it's pretty scary stuff. But the wind here is wild though. It's blowing like right on 60, 70. The building just the house just shaking here.
Yeah, as I said, Jim, last night, it's a good thing I had earplugs because this window, as I said, faces west, and it took an absolute beating last night. I've never actually heard rain. I mean, especially in the month of December, but it's been a while since I've heard rain fall like that, like it did last night. Holy Hannah, it was incredible to see.
Yeah.
We're into some incredible weather going forward, but before we start talking about that and some of our hard water must-haves and what have you, everybody's dying to know how's our beloved Tammy.
Well, they're hanging in there. They did an MRI on her on Friday, and then when you get calls from doctors on Saturdays and Sundays, you know that there's stuff there. So she's back in, or not tomorrow, Wednesday for an MRI again, and then they're gonna have a consult with a neurosurgeon. So it's there's something going on in there. They'll get to the bottom of it. I just hope it's something that the neurosurgeon can do his magic on. So,
well, our thoughts and prayers and positive thoughts are definitely with you and Tammy. It is definitely a tough time, but yeah, we're all hoping for some good news. And as I said, anything
we'll get it.
Yeah, that's what we're waiting for. We're looking forward to hearing that. But yeah, as I said, just as much of a roller coaster as Tammy's on right now, so is our weather. Holy crap, Jim! We're going to break temperatures that were established back in the 1800s. They're saying later on this
Oh,
week.
you mean for highs?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's global warming, eh?
You said it, not me.
Yeah, no, it's there's no doubt about it. There's something going on. You'd be a fool not to realize it. Yeah. But it's nothing that hasn't happened before. Remember I told you about my buddy at the airport when I asked him about the temperatures? Are we breaking temperatures for lows at night? Going down to 5 when it should be -10 and stuff like that. And he just laughed. Oh no, it's not even close, So
I was listening to John White's. He was talking about what the season looks like to him going forward for 2022. And they may have flipped the script a little bit. They're now talking about maybe warmer temperatures, a lot more snow, and based on the weather events that we're seeing, it's certainly racking up to be like that. But based on what I'm seeing here, how many folks are actually hardwater fishing? I know Tammy, you're up in an area that you can. I know Lloyd, you've got ice out west. I know Alexander Henry's been out. The Landrys have been out. Kevin, I'm pretty sure you've been out as well. But yeah, how many folks are actually hardwater fishing? Like, it doesn't look like it's going to happen here anytime soon. Jim, what are your thoughts?
No, I just sent a screenshot of the weather here, just rough to a guy. Now, our next week our temperatures here at nighttime it's -2 and 3, and in the daytime it's +5 and 6. And next Saturday it shows it here right now at 14.
Wow.
Like just for one day. And then I just saw them do a thing on the news about the Grey Cup in Hamilton next Sunday is going to be 3, but it's like 12 on the Saturday or something.
Yeah.
And Oski wee wee hybrid.
Well, you know what? It was nice to see. As I said, I don't know how many people actually follow CFL football, but it will be nice to see Hamilton play in their own stadium in front of their own crowd for a Grey Cup. Apparently the place is sold out already, which is
with Masoli in there too. He's a hometown boy.
Yeah, there you go.
He didn't have a good day the other day, and they brought in the other quarterback, and he was 16 for 16.
Wow,
like that's like a come the backup guy. Like when you need him, he comes out like that. And that's and then they brought Mazzoli in for the short yard situation, and he rolled into the end zone with the keep. You got to like it, but they're playing a good team. Winnipeg got a good team.
100%.
But there's only a couple of wins difference between them, and it was probably Winnipeg beat them. So it's it's one of those things. We'll find out. And I'll either be cheering or crying on Sunday.
Absolutely. I also echo your sentiment, Tricia. If I take out the ice in my freezer, perhaps maybe we'll get some ice fishing. To you folks who have responded and said that you can and are, congratulations to you. And we're looking forward to seeing a lot of pics, especially that, Kevin, that 29-inch walleye that, was it Josh that got that? That's quite a fish, but that 14.9 that Jim Wilson caught, I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, when I saw that, I posted there and I said, wow, that reminds me of the old days of Quinny. 25 years ago, 30 years ago, you'd go down to Quinny, and there was places we fished off the shore in the evenings, and like you've heard me talk about it right at the boat launch. And if somebody didn't catch a 14 or 15 pounder, it wasn't a good night. You'd have to go back to the hotel, drink some more beer, and fight. It was just absolutely nuts. The amount
not that we condone that kind of activity. Yeah, not that we condone that kind of activity, but yeah, absolutely. Tony, some idiots are fishing on 2 inches of ice near the Sioux, and it's a great point that you bring up, Tony. And you know what? As much as we love our content from our community, I just want to keep in mind to everyone, if we're not sharing it, there's a reason. And for the sake of safety, yours and the rest of our community, we can't be posting videos or pics where it's very clear that the ice is not considered.
You remember the young lad on 2 inches of ice last year?
Yeah.
It's that guy. I know one guy who runs a page that has a lot of people on it, and he's been getting a lot of crap because he's got his buddies and whatever deleting stuff constantly. Guys showing pictures, they're fishing. One guy was bragging he measured the ice and it was like 1.75 inches where he was sitting. Wasn't even 2 inches. He said, all you guys waiting for 2 inches. Why? Like, I don't know. It's an attitude that I don't understand. It's like 1 or 2% of the guys out there, and it's just I don't
100%.
know. It's not necessary.
Yeah. No, it's not. And Corey, you're right. It is. It's that is too risky to be on 2 inches of ice, especially on a lake, especially if it has moving water. I mean, can you imagine being out on the Bay of Quinte, Jim, with 2 inches of ice?
I can't imagine anywhere.
No.
I thought it was cool the other day. I went down here by the boat launch and I walked out at the boat launch, and like I'm standing on the ice and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I weigh 320 pounds, and I'm standing on the ice and it's holding me. And I took one more step, and all you could hear was you could hear the cracks run out. So I just sort of shuffled. The water is this deep,
Yeah.
If you fall through, you're probably spraining your ankle. You don't have to worry about drowning. I'd land on a rock, twist my ankle, fall and hit my head, and they'd find me in the spring when it melted.
Wow. One of the things that we're going to be discussing today, Jim, and I'm going to get your thoughts. I know you love your bluegill. Are there some must-haves, some go-tos, some little secrets that you can share with us when it comes to targeting bluegill?
Well, probably not. Not giving away my secrets.
One of the things that you attest to, and you certainly got me on it, is loading up your hooks especially if you're using treble hooks with maggots. And
like live maggots, you got to get them. They just work, eh? There's other things out there too. There's if you're stuck and you can't get live maggots, you've heard me and Chong ranting in the last couple of years about the ice scents. These little guys here.
Okay, yeah.
And they're sort of like, they're not like they're kind of like the Z-Man stuff.
Yeah.
They're really springy. And there's a little shrimp that they have too. And they come in a little bottle. I think it's about, I don't know, it's like $5. And it's probably like, I don't know, it's probably like 50 of them in there.
Okay.
You can get it off the website too. But it's really, really nice stuff. And then there's, like keeping it small. And something I got, I'm going to talk about next week. I just got a whole bunch of new ice rods in that came from Shimano.
Oof.
And I haven't buffed up on them yet. I will for you. But this is a Sedona, and I looked at it and it was funny because when I read the specs on it, I ordered 2 of them. Everything else was 1. There's still a bunch in transit because they came different days. But I just thought that they were, just by looking at the specs, I thought it would be perfect. And it's just a beautiful rod. It's got that nice little light handle on it because there's no reel seat, so it keeps the weight down. It's just really, really nice. But the tip on these things is absolutely amazing. To me, it's exactly what it should be. Not for real micro finesse, for the really teeny little teensy little stuff. But for stuff that you're more apt to use, like using a Marmuska or something that's got a little bit of heaviness to it, maybe like a 16th ounce head, but with a small hook on it, that type of stuff. And I'm really, really excited to give those a go. That's why I hope to get some ice soon, so I can get into it. And then there's other stuff out there too. Like I keep a box with me when I ice fish. I always have this with me. And you can see by looking in there, I've got all kinds of stuff in there.
Wow.
Little weenie, I don't know how well you can see them. They all fall out there. A lot of them are stuck in there. But and this is all stuff that I would use, right down to the same stuff that you use for walleyes, but you can see how small they are.
Mm-hmm.
They're titsy. They're just little weenie little versions of the same thing. Then there's those little Z vibes, the little ones that you've heard so many people talking about.
Yeah,
these little guys, they have a rattle in them. They're just absolutely awesome. Catch just a pile of fish with them. But my favorite basically is just a little jig head, like a tiny little jig head. I like to use the hornet grubs from HT. I've got
Okay.
just a whack of them here. In fact, a lot of them are hard to find sometimes, and I've got just a sea of them put away here for myself. But you can see how small they are. Just a little weeny thing like that, and you get a couple of maggots on the back of that, and you can't beat it. You just can't beat it. And then, of course, we talk about there's so many guys getting in the plastic business. And then I was looking, like, Jamie from True North Baits there. I was looking at this little thing that he's come up with, and it's a little weeny, bitsy little thing, and it's got 3 little tails on the end there. It looks sort of like a spear from what's the ocean god there, Triton or whatever his name is. The top of it looks like that, and it's just 3 little teensy little tails on it. But see, something like that too, you can cut down. You can cut the head off.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You can cut the head off, and all of a sudden it's just that long. It's like 3/4 or half an inch long. Stuff like that is going to be awesome, and it's a little shape I haven't used before. There's some bigger stuff out there, and I think fishing. I don't hesitate to fish a bit of green weed early. You never hear people talk about fishing in the weeds in the wintertime. Well, you go fishing with Dave Gens or Brosdahl or somebody like that, they just head right to the edge of the weeds and into the weed.
Right.
Because early in the year, the weed, even when it freezes, the weed is not that bad yet. It still has fish in it. It's still producing. And depending if the weed stays green, if the snow and the ice doesn't get thick and heavy, the ice, like a lot of the weeds will stay green enough over the winter that they don't drop. I've seen some out here in the springtime in the backyard that don't drop because they got enough sun. I've seen it a couple of years where early in the year, like within a week of the ice being gone, it was all green again. And it's not green because it grew. It's green because it got a lot of sun again, and it just started to function. It hadn't really fallen to the bottom like you see a lot of the weeds do. But basically, back to that same old thing, off the weed edges towards the basin. Right now, they're not going to be far out. Look for soft bottom. That's the key, because these things feed on all kinds of insect life and all those little bloodworms and stuff on the bottom. If you're looking for bluegills, generally a lot deeper than crappies. Crappies tend to do that feeding at 12 to 15 feet thing. Bluegills, I find, and pumpkin seeds, it's 25, 28. 20 to 25, even 28 on the odd day. You'll see them down there deeper, and that's how I almost tell what they are. If they're up 12 to 15 feet, there's a good chance they're crappie. Not necessarily. I've seen days when they're mixed up, and it doesn't happen a lot because they don't really, they feed on the same thing. But I'll tell you, those bluegills love those bloodworms, and they got to be on the bottom. They got to be on a soft, that real sticky bottom. That's why they have, and that's why these guys that I explained to people, they used to take like Dave Gens showed this to me for what I was looking for. He took a 1 ounce bell sinker and he dropped it down to the bottom, and he said, I want you to lift that up gently. And I lift it and I pull it and pull it and pull it, and all of a sudden it just goes and comes out of the bottom. Because of the shape of the bell sinker, it sinks in, the mud closes around it, so that it's got that, what it takes for those fish to have food. And that's just one of those little things and that's why they call them sticky bottoms.
Yeah. He just celebrated a birthday. How old would he be now, Jim?
I don't know, 112.
Well,
I'm catching up to him way too fast. I think it might have been. He's close. He's got to be in his high 70s, maybe even 80. I don't know.
Still going too.
He's getting up there, but it's amazing to see him go.
Yeah,
he's just one of those guys that getting old hasn't killed him.
No, I hear you. Jeanette's asking about what your thoughts are about hyper rattles. I know you held one up just a second ago.
Yeah, some type of a little rattle bait. Yeah, like they come in like at every size underneath the sun. Because one of the favorite things we have for walleyes in that is the TNs. I just got some of the back ordered stuff in.
Nice.
I was getting ready for ice fishing, but you can hear all the rattles shaking around in those things. Yeah, any kind of a little bait with a rattle in it. Like, these are not the smallest Z vibes that are out there. I had the one there earlier, but I would like the one that's even below this, that's even smaller. I had some kicking around. I don't know where they went here, but you can see the size of that one.
Yeah.
against my finger. It's pretty small, but let me see. I think I got a smaller one sitting on the desk here.
And you're using 3-pound test for that, Jim?
Yeah. Yeah.
All 3-pound test. Wow. Nice setup.
You see, here's the really small one.
Oof. Wow.
That's like half the size of the one that I just showed you. Like I'll put my finger beside it and you can see.
Oof. That is super tiny.
And you can
You
keep
prefer the single hook or the treble, Jim?
I'd put the treble on.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I'd put the treble on for sure. And something else that they have too, like I showed you that little spoon. They have a little spoon here. What's it called? A tea flasher. I've never used it, but once again, you can see by my thumb how small it is, or my finger how small it is. Yeah, there's not much to it. They're pretty small baits, but they pack a real punch. And you know the cool thing about it is that you're seeing so many people using them because they're getting out there a lot more because they have a really good distributor in Canada now. So the people are using them because they're available. You go into stores and you see this giant wall of this stuff up there. When you see a shop and they've got a 4x8 panel of the stuff, you know that it's selling. And I keep them in a little box all separate. They really have a place in my heart. I've got so many fish on them. It's nuts, and they have been around long. And if you get into bluegills too, you can use small versions of the summer stuff. Like this is not that big. It's like that's the 2.8 rhythm wave. So you could cut that off, literally cut off half the body and just put it on if you want to use it for crappies or something. The hook's too big for bluegills. You'd have a hard time getting a bluegill to get hooked on that.
Yeah, good size bluegill if you did.
Yeah, it'd be worth it. Yeah, no, you'll get the odd one, but it generally takes like a smaller hook. That's why I like to use the treble on the back, because the hooks are smaller and you can put a maggot on each hook too. There's something about maggots. Like the lures themselves will catch fish, but you put a maggot on, it's a whole different world. And I get people call me all the time, and I tell them, I said, I see your pictures you put up every year. You call me, you message me, you watch us on CFN. You come to the Sportsman Show, like everything else, and then I see you post a picture of you ice fishing. You're sitting on the ice in a chair with a beer. You've got your rod stuck in the snow, and you're catching another 2-pound pike. And you say every year I don't catch better fish or bigger ones, because you're doing exactly the same thing. You're doing what's conducive to a 2-pound pike, and it's you have to do other things. You have to just really, really change to if you want to catch fish. Hey, too, when I mentioned the sports shows there, Ron James from Fish TV contacted me today and said to me, "Hey, are you going to be available for the Toronto Sportsman Show?" So they're, right now they're still moving ahead with it. The COVID thing is not really bad in the Toronto area. It's kind of interesting. I just saw on the news there, I think it was they said that 87% of Ottawa has at least one vaccination now, because they've got the kids involved in it.
Yeah.
And they've only got 440 cases or something in the city. And you go down into Kingston here, I think we have more than that. I think we had like 120 over the weekend, and then a whole bunch more today. The hospital's just full of it. Like I told you can't go in the hospital. It's just, and I mean, there's only 120,000 people in the Kingston area. It's not that much. And then I was talking to some guys up toward Algoma, Sault Ste. Marie. It's wild up there too. One of my buddies there I was talking to, his kids got sent home from school again today. They got to be tested. That's like the third time in 2 weeks or something for them, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And Keith, we're all excited in hopes that we'll have the shows this year. But
I think the Toronto show stands a good chance of going ahead. I really do. It's just if they don't get hit with one of these things where they're only allowed so many people for the size of the building. Because if you want people there, if people are going to pay to go to a show to sell stuff, you got to have people. And if you can only have like 20% of the people you usually have in the building or something, it ain't going to work.
No. And you're right, Shane. That ice fishing show expo that is up in Barrie, 2 years running now. It's been a great show.
Yeah.
Hoping that-
Well, Mike, when Mike called me, remember last fall we discussed this, and
Mhm.
they had found a new and a bigger venue and everything else, and with all the COVID restrictions, they told him, you can only have 267 people in the building at a time total. So if he sells, like 75 booths, and they all have 2 people working, well, there's 150. So you can only have another 115 people or 17 people in the building at once.
Yeah,
That doesn't work. You can't.
No.
It doesn't work.
100%.
People can't pay for a booth and then sell stuff. And plus, you want to go to a show where there's just, there's only, you might get to the door and you won't get in for 2 hours and all stuff like that. That's
100%.
not what we want to do. It's,
Well, Jim,
it'll come back.
absolutely. And as I said, the time, I don't know where the time goes, but holy crap, we're out of time already. I'm looking forward to you kicking back tonight, putting your feet up and watching something that you haven't seen or you've been waiting to see. But in the meantime, as I said, give our best to Tammy, and
I will do.
hopefully
We're actually going to watch Yellowstone.
Nice. You'll enjoy that.
When I grow up, I want to be a cowboy.
Don't we all?
Either that, either a cowboy or a carny, one or the other.
Right on, brother. Well, you take care of yourself, and we'll keep in touch. And as I said, hopefully we have some good news about Tammy. Yeah, amen.
Don't let you see on the ice, and I better not ever catch anybody from the CFN on the ice with
Amen.
these in a bag.
Amen.
Be safe out there, guys.
Good advice, buddy. You take care.
Take care, pal.
All the best. As I say, really appreciate Jim coming on in light of everything that's going on in his life. Still wants to come and spend some time with our CFN family, and I tell you, we love him for it. And we hope that we hear some good news real soon about Tammy. Speaking of good news and a good word, we got Lawrence coming up next, right after this message from our sponsor.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
Well, Lawrence, it's not often I see that. I was panicking. You did a dress change. You changed your gear. Holy smokes. All of a sudden I look down and I see a bare-chested Lawrence. I'm like, uh-oh, he's lost it.
Well, we're going to some polar bear dipping. I thought that we were talking about, polar bear dip in the ice.
Well, you can't see this, but Lawrence, this chair in the background, it has, I don't know, like I saw this back in the movies in the 70s. A love chair where, someone would be sitting there smoking a cigarette with one of those plastic filters, big long thing, with gloves on. And as I said, anyway, I look at this and I just say the 70s want their chair back. But when you were bare chested there for a second, beginning to wonder, beginning to worry. But you have put on your Bluefish Radio shirt, and you've got some exciting news you want to share with us.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be tomorrow. I'm going to be interviewing Brett Kissler. He's the he's won 19 Canadian Country Music Awards, 3 Juno Awards. He's had like 10 top 10 hits, and the guy's 31 years old. He just came out with his 5th record, and he has his own TV show. Wow. Backwoods Backstage. So he's big into hunting and fishing. He's living with his family in Alberta, his 3 kids and his wife, and just rocking it, and so he's got a lot of great conservation values, and he really believes in, harvesting sustainably, feeding your family with fish and game that you harvest from sustainable sources, doing a good job, getting the right game, bringing them home, feeding your fish with this good, healthy, wild food. So I'm really looking forward to that. So look for that for sure. And that sort of follows on the theme of the Bluefish News that came out today. We were looking at some survey results on people's salmon eating preferences. And there's a lot of people eating salmon, man. A lot of people. And how does that break down? Where are they buying their fish? Are they catching their fish? Who are they buying their fish from? So we poked at that a little bit. I wasn't happy. It seemed like this survey was really focused on, hey, buy cheap salmon from the open pen aquaculture industry. It's the best deal going on. It was sort of trying to make that case. So I got Dr. Hannah Harrison on the line from Guelph University, and she's doing a podcast called Social Fish Tancing. And she's been talking to fishers, actual artesian fishers, people go out in their boats and own their own boats, go out on the Great Lakes, go out on the Atlantic coast, the West Coast, catch fish, bring them back to shore, sell these fish. They own the boats, they own the licenses. She's been talking to them for the last 2 years, finding out how they're doing over COVID. And turns out that when all this food got snapped up from the grocery store shelves 2 years ago when COVID hit, that people turn to these fishers and say, hey, can I buy some fish from you? Because there's nothing left in the grocery store. So these fishers, these ones that are driving their own boat, coming back, cleaning the fish, preparing the fish, selling the fish, are busier than ever. And that just continues to grow. We call it community supported fisheries, right? People are signing up for their fish. They get a box of fish every 2 weeks or every week. And so I put a few links to some of these services in the Bluefish news, and you can listen into my interview with Hannah and look at the results and catch all the rest of the news. Oh, and yeah, it's all there.
That's awesome. And as Corey has mentioned, the nutritional value of salmon, it's so good for you. And so I think in a lot of cases they recommend that we eat at least 3 fish meals a week, if not more. Obviously, we have to be concerned about what contaminants we're getting from these fish, but salmon's up there. I mean, and you're right. When it comes to, let's say if you're a vegan, all right, but you're a pescatarian at the same time, in most cases, salmon is what you're substituting for red meat. And in a lot of cases, we have a lot of vegans out there that are pescatarian, and they always choose salmon as their source of protein. So as you have said, it's about creating or at least instilling viable fisheries that we're going to be able to go to the well more than once. My concern is that we're outfishing our supply.
Yeah, we haven't, although, we're getting better at it. The Americans are the best in the world at managing their fisheries, for sure. They really set the bar pretty high, and we're catching up. In terms of North America, our near shore and inshore and even offshore fisheries are doing quite well. Anywhere where we control those fisheries and restrict foreign access, those fisheries are doing better and better every year. We're getting better at this. We're still struggling with cod and we're struggling with the salmon, but with these fish, the salmon coming inland and up the rivers, that's a tougher one, right? Because it's not just you're dealing with the oceans anymore. You're dealing with this whole transition and all of that. But we are getting better at figuring this out. And, I think in terms of fisheries, the commercial fishery, there's no better managed fishery in the world. Like, you compare our commercial fisheries and how they're managed and compare that to even recreational fisheries or First Nations fisheries. Right now, our commercial fisheries are managed just wonderfully. I mean, they know exactly how many fish are being caught, when they're being caught, what size are being caught, the bycatch that's being caught and returned. They measure all this, and they can control exactly how many fish should be caught the next year. And they do this on the Great Lakes. There's 60 commercial fishing boats on the Great Lakes that are out there making a living every year. And it's been going on sustainably for hundreds of years. There's been some dips and there's been some peaks, but they keep kind of reestablishing that balance and keeping it going. So, hats off to them, man. Hats off to the researchers and the enforcement people and the fishers themselves, because this is multi-generational stuff, right? And if we can support those people by buying fish directly from them instead of, from some weird place around the other side of the world or some company we don't know, or fish we have no idea where it's coming from, or if it's harvested sustainably. If you can make a relationship with those fishers, those Great Lake fishers, or on the east or west coast or wherever, and buy fish directly from them, and they're catching the right fish at the right time of the year in sustainable ways, you're supporting a good industry. And if you can go out and catch them yourself, even better.
And you're actually echoing the sentiments of Jeremy, and I have to agree, Jeremy. Fresh caught salmon tastes, in my opinion, a lot better than some of the stuff that you see in the stores. So if there's any advice that I can give anyone that does like to eat salmon, go out and catch one and experience the difference. And you'll understand why wild caught salmon are so sought after.
Anything caught fresh is fantastic.
Right.
We don't have the technology to flash freeze. If you're going to freeze fish, you have to flash freeze it, because the molecules, the ice molecules, when you flash freeze something, are so tiny, it doesn't explode the cellular makeup of the flesh of the meat itself, of the fish itself. If you just put fish in a baggie and put it in the freezer, the water inside the fish expands, the cells explode. The fish, when you thaw it out, all the juices come out of those broken cells. All that juice comes out of those fish and into the bottom of the baggie. You throw that away. What you got is meat that's pretty dried out, inside and out, because of all the cellular destruction. So freezing fish on your own isn't the best way to store fish. I mean, you could still use it, but it's not that great tasting anymore. So if you can buy flash frozen fish, and some of these, these fishing charter organizations on the West Coast, they actually have that technology. So you bring your salmon in, they'll flash freeze it for you. They'll clean it and flash freeze it for you, and so you can pack it in coolers and bring it home. But otherwise, catch what you need, let the rest go, get a good meal or two, and then and you're good to go, but yeah, fill in your chest freezer on your own. You want to be a little careful about that. That's when you start to get into smokers and things like that. You can maybe make it last a little bit longer for sure, but otherwise you're going to lose the flavor, and that's a shame.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, I'm sure we're all guilty of it at some point, whether we want to admit it or not, but we have taken fish out of a freezer, noticed that it was freezer burn, or unfortunately, as you had mentioned, the molecular component of it is broken and it doesn't look edible at all. And we've had to throw out. So yes, you're 100% right. And all it means is you're going to spend a little bit more time fishing for what you're going to eat that night. And that's a bad thing, right?
So even when you're ice fishing, right? The last thing you want to do is, when you're ice fishing, is throw those fish onto the ice and have them freeze on the ice, because again, the cells are going to explode right there. You're freezing them. Then you have to take them home, thaw them out again, and then you have to clean them, and then you're going to put them back in the freezer again. But already they've been frozen once, and already they've had that cellular destruction. So if you're going to harvest fish when you're ice fishing, bring a cooler, bring some way of either keeping the fish alive, or the best thing to do is you bonk them on the head so they're stunned, and not to kill them, but to stun them so they're not thrashing. And then you break the gills. You break the gills with your finger or cut them with a knife to let them bleed out. And if you let them bleed out, the quality of the taste of the fish is going to be so much better. If you can bleed them out while they're still alive, that's fantastic. Then put them in a cooler so they don't freeze, so they're not, instantly flash frozen on the ice, which is just nasty. And then if they get rigor mortis, do not handle the fish. Do not straighten them. Do not try to clean them. Do not try to, force them straight again, because again, you'll be tearing the cellular structure again. You'll be destroying the fabric of the meat. So you just wait for the rigor mortis to leave before you process the fish once you get them home. If they're stiff when you get them home, just leave them for another hour or so. The rigor mortis will leave, and then finish cleaning them, filleting them, skinning them, or hopefully, even just scaling them and leaving the skin on, and then cooking them with that skin side down in a nice cast iron pan or a carbon steel pan with 4 or 5 tablespoons of oil. And then take that hot oil, turn the pan a little bit on the angle, take a tablespoon, take that hot oil and drizzle it over the top of the fish. So you don't need to flip the fish. Just take that super hot oil, drizzle it over the top of the fish. Best thing ever.
Some good tips and good advice there. Ed McKenzie, that is another great piece of information. Yes, a lot of people have those vacuum sealers. One of the things that I was shown is filling your bag with the fillets, filling your bag with water so that no air can get at the fillets, and freeze it as such. It becomes this big block of nothing but water and your fillets, and it doesn't have the same kind of effect that Lawrence is talking about with from a molecular standpoint. If you do that, and of course, it remains about as fresh as possible in a freezer. But you're right. I'm with you. You catch it, go home, cook it, and eat it fresh. There's
Yeah, when you freeze them in a block, they won't get freezer burnt because they're not exposed to air, so they won't dry out that way. But yeah, these vacuum sealers you do for sous vide, I have one, and I love it. I love it. I have a sous vide as well, so I use that a lot. And it's it's just a nice way. You can never overcook anything with a sous vide. So if you guys want to take, especially bits of meat, you don't have to put your sous vide your top quality fillets and things, but the less nice pieces, the chunks you don't know what to do with, you put them in a Ziploc in that bag, and you seal it. You put it in a sous vide, and that's when that thing really comes to life, when you can start cooking those less choice pieces, because they're going to be thoroughly cooked through without overcooking them. So it's a really brilliant way to cook your food. But I think ice fishing, and I have to go back to what Gord says, and I think there's this psychology. Gord Pizer, we talked about this last week a bit. Jason, you guys talked about this, about being on the ice and having your 8-inch or your 6-inch hole in another couple holes, and you're thinking, wow, I got some fish down there, and you're looking around and you're thinking, man, great big lake, river, whatever. This one spot, I'm going to catch these fish down below me on this one spot. There's no way I'm putting a beating on this ecosystem. I'm just fishing one little spot down there, one little spot. How could I be impacting this great big water body? But as Gord Pizer puts out, there's a lot of fish that prepare to spawn by schooling up in the fall, and they prepare for the spring spawn that way, and they group up together. So a whole lot of fish from one water body can be concentrated in a very small area. And you'll find that area. Eventually, you will find that area. We have the technology, we have the know-how to find those fish. So you might think I'm only impacting 1/1,000,000th of the size of this lake based on my little hole in the ice. You could be doing a lot more damage than you think. So yeah, again, be careful how you're handling the fish. I was also talking to Dr. Stephen Cook, and I always thought that when you take these fish out of the hole and you expose them to air, especially if you're outside in the wind and it's cold, the big thing was the eyes, right? You don't want to freeze the eyes. And I know a lot of people that have gone blind. Unfortunately, they pass out, drunkenness, they pass out in a snowbank. And the first thing that freezes is your eyes. That's the first thing on your body when you pass out in the outside is your eyes. And it's the nerve endings in your eyes, right? Like there's very little protecting those nerve endings. Those rods and cones in your eyes and the retina will be destroyed again by freezing. It expands and they all just blow up, and that's it. You're blind. And I always thought, well, that's something you don't want to be careful with fish. But Dr. Cook says, well, you know what? Fish don't blink. Their eyes are pretty tough. They swim through weeds. They swim through gunk and sticks and all sorts of crap. They never blink their eyes once. They don't wear goggles. So their eyes are pretty tough. But what's not tough is their gills. And they have those very feathery types of hairs. I forget what he calls them, in their gills. And if they freeze and if they expand and crack and blow up, then you put those fish back, they swim away. You think they're going to be fine, but you've just destroyed their whole breathing mechanism, their whole oxygen, CO2 exchange mechanism right there at the gills has been destroyed. So those fish are going to be suffocating. So it's really important not to expose those gills to extreme cold. You really need to keep the head in the water as quickly as possible, not take them out, not hold them, not walk around a lot. I think a lot of these ice fishing tournaments have to take this into consideration as well. It's just those fish are not going to survive. You think they're going to be fine, but they're not going to do well later on.
No, great point. Great advice, great suggestions. And 100%. We have to definitely ensure the safety of ourselves while hard water fishing, but also the fish that we're intending to release. Lawrence, dude, I don't know where the time goes, but it just flies by. And again, I can't thank you enough. We look forward to seeing your interview tomorrow.
Can I take my shirt off now? I'm kidding. My wife would
pretty
beat
much
me.
in the broadcast if we do. Lawrence, thanks so much for all you do and all you bring, and good luck tomorrow with the interview.
Thanks, man.
Right on. You take care. And before we bring in Jay, let's have a word from his sponsor.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural, man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
Is it true, Jay? Fish bite and they won't let go?
Absolutely. It's true.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you? I'm you know what? I don't miss being on the road. I was on the road. I'm on the road a lot for work, and this time of year I'm not. So when we called in tonight and I saw where you were, I'm like, oh, he's back in a motel. That sucks.
You know what? It's a nice break from normality. It's doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, the suggestions, Jim, that you're going to start a GoFundMe and have some professional photographers show up and no,
you got to do the Costanza, man. Do the Costanza.
No, that's definitely not going to happen. So we'll squash that as quick as we can. But in terms of weather, dude, like every time we see these anomalies, I mean, that was a huge weather event over the last 24 hours. I think of you immediately. And it just seems like it's going to get worse before it gets better in terms of inclement weather. But I'll tell you, it is certainly putting a dent in the amount of hard water fishing we're going to be able to do this year.
Well, you know what? Like, I know there's some diehard ice anglers, and we're going to get down to some ice fishing stuff I got going on here, but I still got a month of steelheading left, you know. Yes. Heck, even shout out to the Big Creek anglers. Last Saturday, we took the boards out from the fish ladder. So the local ladder, the fish can have free reign. And with the warming trends, there was an online discussion today about putting the boards back in. So we were down there tonight fixing the boards. We're going to be lifting fish. We expect the river is about as high as it's been all fall with the rain we got. So, you know, and we don't get a huge fall run, but it is just great to be engaged with local anglers and become a stewards of the resource and making more stewards of the resource. So if they want to lift fish, we're going to lift some fish. That's what's going to happen. So, you know,
and I think it's a huge shout out to see the efforts that are going on all over the place. And we are going to be spending a lot more time promoting, mentioning, bringing to light some of those groups. I know we're working on that behind the scenes, but we want to get up to some of these hatcheries. We want to get to some of these group events where you are doing some unbelievable work. As I don't know, insignificant as it may seem, it's huge when it comes to how our fisheries are going to look in the future. And to all those who volunteer their time, my hat comes off to salute you. You are a rare breed of people, and we wish there was more of you.
Yeah, what I hope, Scotty, is that, what we can do through the year next year, and even maybe at some of the upcoming trade shows, because some of these groups have their own booth at these shows, and I'd love to sit down with you and interview some of these groups and find out what kind of work they're up to. Really, really do, because
100%.
Yeah.
And as I said, we are definitely going to be working on that in the new year, because as I said, there's no disservice that we're doing. Well, it's a huge disservice by not promoting them and not helping them build their numbers. Yeah. Let's face it, they're getting long in the tooth. A lot of these volunteers, some of are getting to the point where they're just their mobility is becoming an issue, and we need to get that youth involved. We've got to get the youth involved. And again, I can't mention enough what Richard Elliott is doing in our schools across Ontario, and bringing in those incubators and bringing in those hatcheries and allowing those kids to see the evolution of those fish from the egg to, the smoke and fry and what have you. It's just amazing when you can actually see it right before your eyes happening. I don't
100%.
There's no better way to get kids involved in fishing. Now, we are talking ice fishing,
All
and
right.
I know a lot of folks would love nothing more than to see the inside of some of your bait wells and tackle boxes. What species are we going to start with first?
I'm gonna give you, these aren't actually species specific, but we talked about must-haves. I'm gonna give you 3 must-haves tonight. Okay, we're gonna do 3. Okay. Number 1, and this is like a premier. I'm gonna show this here, okay? Because not many people have seen these yet. This is the new Fluger President inline reel. Okay.
Wow.
So you can see I got that on the Fenwick rod, and like Jim was talking about with the Shimano rods, a lot of companies are going to this no reel seat, okay? And it makes the rod really light, okay? Now, I will say that these inline reels are a little heavy, but not much heavier than a spinning reel. So this is about the same weight as like a size 20 or size 2000 spinning reel, okay? So what's great about these is, one, I can run straight fluorocarbon on there. I got just a little tungsten jig, okay, on that little Fenwick rod and that little light tip, okay? But what's great is they put a trigger on here. So, and a lot of companies have these, but the little trigger, when you're fishing, you drop the trigger, and when you let go of the trigger, it stops spinning.
Interesting.
Okay? So now what you do is, to adjust it, you can adjust the drop speed. There's a magnetic cast control in here, just like in a bait caster, okay? So you can adjust the speed based on the weight of the lure that you're using. So I have 3-pound test fluorocarbon in here. I get almost 0 spin. Look at that lure. It's not even spinning, okay? That's because the line goes on straight, not around a spool. So these are just fantastic for light lining fish, but you don't have to just use it for panfish. It's great for all applications. In fact, what makes the Fluger stand out against other ones, and I've just done quite a bit of research on this, most inline reels, they started out years ago with a 1-to-1 or a 1.5-to-1 gear retrieve. This one now it's a little over 5-to-1. And I like to talk about inches per turn. This is 38 inches per turn.
So revolution of
the revolution, which is almost the same as a spinning reel. So if I want to fish in 20 feet of water, okay, I only have to turn it a few times to get it up and down. Whereas before, we used to have to wait for these inline reels to descend that bait down, which does take some time to get down. But I can get that fish up quickly and get back down again. It's just a fantastic tool. And again, you don't have to use light line on this. It has I think it's up to 8 pound of drag. So I can easily fish for walleye with this I'd probably go, if I'm using spoons and larger presentations, I might use something different. But what a great tool for basically for perch and panfish, and also some small walleye and small trout applications too. And you can use fluorocarbon, and it lasts because you're not twisting it. Right. Now, online, here's where I'm going to give you a tip tonight. I think people are going to like this tip. This is what I do to save online. It's I was writing out notes, and I called it my line saving idea, not life saving idea, but line saving idea. Okay. So I know on that reel, okay, I have 38 inches per turn, which is roughly, I rounded it to 36 inches, which is 3 feet. So on this box of line, okay, there's 75 yards, 225 feet of fluorocarbon, okay? Yeah. Well, I can fill 3 of those reels because I'm only going to put 75 feet on that reel. I'm only fishing in 20 to 30 feet of water.
Right.
75 feet is tons. Yeah. So I can use that fluorocarbon on 3 reels. And so to keep track of that, I put masking tape on the back, and I write how much I put on a reel, and I know how much is left on there. And it's a great way because it's hard to judge, especially with these thin ice lines. Like if you're talking 3-pound fluorocarbon, like 3-pound fire line, that's like 1 pound diameter. And what sucks is you put on your backing. So on these reels, I always put like 6 or 8 pound mono backing on it, because I have like, I got kids and I do fishing derbies, right? That's 3,000 yards of 8 pound mono. So I'm going to put backing on there, and then I just have to top it up with 60, 70, 80 feet of line. I'm only going down 20, 30 feet at the most, and I have some extra if I need it. And then if I actually hit my connection knot, I just come home and top it up with what I have left. And you want to have your spool full. So you want to have your spool as full as you can to take advantage of that retrieve and getting line off your spool. It doesn't matter whether it's an inline or a spinning. You want to have your reel properly filled. But being able to,
I was just going to
conserve. Yeah, absolutely. So being able to conserve line it's not just, line isn't that expensive. Like monofilament is cheap, but you know what? It's not wasting it either. And you don't have to use, I don't have to use an entire spool of 3 pound test mono. I might split that between 2 or 3 rods, and that might last me for a good chunk of the season. So it's just a great way to manage your line and knowing. So every time I turn the handle, if I have 3 feet, I only want to put on 75 feet. I only have to turn that handle like 22 times, and I'm there, and I stop, and I know how much line I have left on that filler spool for my next reel.
So Jeanette is asking a great question, and I appreciate the fact that she's asking this question, because some would be hesitant to ask just because they'd be afraid of exposing themselves as not knowing. But you're 100% right, Jeanette. Not everyone knows when a reel is full.
Right. So I'm going to show you.
And Todd just mentioned your wife must be thoroughly impressed with how organized you are, Jason.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, so here we go. How to fill it. Basically, what you want to do is about maybe an 1/8 or a 1/16 of an inch below that lip of that spool. Okay, you want to get it as full as you can, but there's some tricks to that. With braid, I can have a lot more on there. If I go a little over on braid, it's not too bad. But if I go with mono or fluoro, if it's too full, it jumps off too much. Okay. So basically, I want to fill it just to the edge of that spool. Now, on a lot of my braid rods, this is my other lifesaver, I use nanofill year round, like 10 pound nanofill on a lot of my river smallie fishing, my stream trout fishing. I just switch those reels right over to ice fishing.
Right.
I'll get 2-3 years, as long as Trevor doesn't lose too many of the knots and snags. I'll get 2 or 3 years out of a spool of nanofill. Okay, on braid. But when you're using mono and fluoro, you don't want to fill it as full. But one thing about the inline reels that's really neat is because of the way it comes off, because it's straight on, it doesn't have to be totally full. What's nice though is that if it's full enough, you can optimize your revolutions, because the fuller the spool, the more line on the spool, the more line per wrap, the more line you can take up per turn. Okay. So, but basically each reel can be a little bit different, but you want to be within an 1/8 of an inch or a 1/16 of an inch of the edge of that spool. But like I said, with fluorocarbon, I won't fill it as full. And you'll also find too that maybe with mono or with fluorocarbon, you might want to go to a bit bigger reel, has a little bit bigger diameter. It manages those coils better. If I go, that's a size 2500 reel. Like this is one of my walleye lake trout rods, medium heavy rod. If I was going with a panfish reel, it's half the size of this. And I want to be careful how much I put on there, because I don't want it jumping off or coiling off. So every reel is a little bit different, and the type of line you're going to use is different. So
100%. And yeah, Mark, you would know best when it comes to lake trout fishing, the value of an inline reel like that, being able to reel up fast enough. If you're bringing in as much line with one revolution as you say you are, holy smokes, Jay, you might outrun.
Well, and I have to say too, like with and for those, like Mark has used fluorocarbon on inline reels. Fluorocarbon is really strong. Like I like 3 pound test fluorocarbon, but 3 pound, I could use 2 pound test fluorocarbon it has the same breaking strength as 3-pound test mono. Fluorocarbon has a higher breaking strength typically than monofilament. And it's also more abrasion resistant. There's some great attributes to fluorocarbon. Okay. But it doesn't manage well on spinning reels, but on inline reels, it really manageable. And the technology in inline reels, like that's a Fluger, but there's other great inline reels out there that are available. But that trigger finger, and you can see how I have my reel set far back. I just have to put my hand on that trigger, and then I can release that trigger. It'll drop my bait down. Then when I want the bait to stop, I just release my finger and it stops. It's such a great tool for ice fishing. It really, really, really is. Now, what's not great about it is typically I'm not going to use that reel outside of ice fishing. At least with my spinning reels, I can use them year round. But the inline reel is fantastic. I can't say enough good things about it.
Well, as I said, Mark was mentioning about being able to get it down quickly with some of the tungsten jigs.
Yeah,
I see a huge advantage in that. But right off the top, the most important thing for a lot of folks that are ice fishing, you get the line twists, and with it coming straight off the reel like that, you're avoiding all of that headache and all that mess.
Yeah, it's incredible. Even when I'm winding the fluorocarbon on, it's wanting to jump off the filler spool. And then when I go to check it, like I'm just sitting here and I drop it down to the floor and I'm like, it's straight. Like, it's amazing how just winding it on that way, the best way to put it on, if you can, is to use the old pencil trick or have someone hold it for you. So it's going on straight, coming off the filler spool straight and going on your reel spool straight. But if you can't do that, it's okay. Just put some pressure on it because there is some stretch in fluorocarbon, and try and stretch that fluorocarbon out. And if it still is a little bit kinking, and even with your mono, if it's kinking while you're ice fishing, which it can happen in the cold, just go hook it onto the corner of your sled and stretch it out. Just give it a little stretch. 20, 30 feet is all you need because you're probably not fishing much deeper than that anyways. 100%. So you can really, but what's nice about mono is that you can change it when you want to. It does degrade over time, but it's cheap. The other lines are more expensive and you want to be able to conserve them better. So
100%.
So that was 2. Yeah, that was 2. I got one more. And this is something I want everyone to think about. Okay. So, if you wanted to make the most of your ice fishing, and we're not going to talk about my Vexilar, but we're going to talk about my glow ring. Okay. These glow rings are indispensable when I use so many glow in the dark baits. And if I could dim the lights in here and I could show you my tungsten jig box, half of those are glowing. My spoon box, these are all my micro spoons. Half of them are glowing. My even the little the little Euro Vibe, the micro vibe that Jim was showing us, the glow one, that's my favorite. The regular glow and the Wonder Bread. The Wonder Bread is just money.
And people Wonder Bread through the HardWater, yeah.
Yeah. So they all glowed. But I want to give a shout out to Enzo at Lake Simcoe Power Box. So Trevor and I have been using these Lake Simcoe Power Boxes this fall. And I want to give a shout out to Enzo for giving Trevor a chance to be on his pro staff. But they come with a glow ring.
Beautiful.
And they're made, Enzo's in Ennisville. You can order them through his Facebook page. I'm going to drop a link in the chat. And I can't stress enough about how these little glow if you're an ice angler, you need a glow ring. The other way you can do it, and I've talked about this before on the show, go buy yourself a good, now I know a headlamp can glow, but a UV light is what you want. You can go and get yourself a UV flashlight on like Amazon for like $4, and and you can keep that in your pocket and charge up your baits. But charging up glow baits with UV, the glow is much brighter and it lasts a lot longer. So
I've been intrigued by those boxes that Enzo makes. Bill White reached out to me and was asking what I used to charge, my cameras and all that other stuff. And it's an old Hummingbird charging unit, but it's heavy because you got a car battery in there. So it's not what I would consider conducive for any long journeys out on the HardWater. That box seems awfully small. What kind of battery life do you get out of it? How many times are you able to charge your phone?
I haven't drained them yet because we just got them this fall, but my experience with running my Vexlar, like it takes this very similar battery. So it's a 12 amp hour lead acid battery. I got lithiums in my Vex, and I'm going to see how these go with the lead acid. Because what I hope to do is not only am I going to use this to run my glow ring, okay, I also can run our GoPros on it with the USB connection. It's actually got lights in the front. Whoa, bang, lights in the front. Okay. And I have lights for our hub shelter, LED lights that go along the ceiling. I can actually wire them into here. So this little gem is going to be a big part of our ice fishing this year. It's going to, and I'm not going to say it's not that heavy. It's heavy enough, but it's such a valuable tool. And I do so much ice fishing at night, like, after sunset, staying for 2 or 3 hours, or early in the morning in the darkness. You need good lights. And this is going to really help us this year. I've been looking at power boxes for a while. Enzo reached out to Trevor, mostly because of Trevor's kayak fishing, which is great. So although Trevor got his box late in the year, I know he's going to be using it on his kayak a ton next summer for sure. So it's great. And there's all kinds of companies that make them, but Lake Simcoe Power Box are made right in Ontario out of Ennisville, and he'll ship it to your house. Great guy to deal with. I'm not supported by Enzo. I just love a good local product that I can support.
That's awesome. And yes, absolutely support local, buy local, and help local with that support. Jay, as always, dude, I don't know where all the time goes. We have, I would say, not exhausted the HardWater topic.
Oh,
we're definitely going to get back on it. Perhaps we will do it again next week. We have Yvonne coming on again, as I said, on the 17th. And you ladies, if you want to have some say, you want to have the ability to build what it's going to look like in 2022 with the Ladies' Night event, I encourage you to show up and speak to Yvonne, give her some great helpful advice and ideas for next year's Ladies' Night segments. So stay tuned to that. But next week, I think we'll have one more segment of HardWater. I'm just hoping we're going to have some HardWater to enjoy, because we are completely geared up and ready at this point.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm pretty excited, but I got to catch some more steelhead yet. I got some contests online at work that I gotta really, help our Burlington team catch some big steelhead yet to get some numbers up. Although pike is also one of the species I got to catch. Usually around here I can catch them under the ice, but I might be going after some shoreside pike fishing this month with the warmer temperatures we're getting. So you know what? I'm just going to make the most of the weather that we got. And I know I'm not going to get any complaints from my usual fishing partner if I say we're going to switch gears and go for pike over steelhead, because as much as he's caught some beautiful steelhead this fall, that kid just wants to bend a rod. So
there you go. He's not alone.
No. Before we close out, I just want to give a shout out. Today's December 6th, which is Day of Remembrance for what happened in Montreal all those years ago to all those ladies. And so just everyone take a moment in your day and tonight and think about how we need to treat women out there. And we don't need any of that kind of stuff happening in our society anymore. So just a moment to think about that, because that's something that's important to me, with the important ladies in my life, and a few ladies that I've met even through the CFN and other groups. So it means a lot to remember those people.
COVID aside, hug your ladies. It was something that we always, it might not be appropriate, but we always used to say, hug your ladies, don't hit your ladies. It's just, I just don't understand what goes through the mind of a person that does. But
to close on a positive note, I see Sean's chat, mention the chat, come north for ice, folks. Sean, I will get to a point where I will have enough and I will be driving to find ice. So, Sean, if I have to see you, it will happen. Don't you worry. I will find ice.
Amen. Jay, as always, dude, thanks so much for what you bring, and just keep up the great work, dude.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Right on, Jay. You take care. And that's a wrap, folks. As I said, I've got a date on the couch. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, thanks so much for showing up. I appreciate you guys and the fact that you come here every Monday and spend a little bit of time with our community. Say hi, chime in with some great comments, some great helpful advice too. I think that is key. As great as the panel is, it's always nice to see you folks offering up some of your how-tos, some of your tips, some of your advice. We don't necessarily live in your backyard. You know a lot more about it than we do, and you have found things that maybe we haven't even thought of. Anyway, until next Monday, you guys stay classy and stay safe. And as I said, as I always do, love you guys. You guys take care, eh? All the best. Peace.